Well, another week and another opportunity to get another win, another opportunity to get better, and just take another step in the progress of our football program. You know, whether you win a close ball game, you lose a close ball game, that or you win it, surely affects your record and a lot of things down the road, but doesn't affect the lessons you can learn from the game and the progress that can be made. And after the heartbreak of another tough loss in the last seconds of the game, we start to build from it and get to our next one. And so it's you know, and so we are. I'm pleased the way our kids fought in that game and the way we played, and the team that beat us 35-3 last year, and did a lot of things. Had a heck of a ball game with them. We've already put it behind us. Had a good day of practice today, and you know, and again, I talked to the players before the game. Said surely y'all look at the video and you see how much farther we've come, how farther you've come. Surely you're not going to get yourself down. That this is just a continuation. It's not. It's improvement. You're moving. You're better. Let's build from it, and let's don't feel like we have to be heartbroken, or we have to just, you know, we can't grow from it and be positive. And because, you know, say you get loss after loss, eventually you say, gosh, these guys are going to start letting it wear on them. But that, I don't think. I think they're smart enough to see how close these things are coming and how far they're coming, and how far they're moving along. And so we had a good day of practice, and I expect our team to be ready to go and play a great ball game against Bowling Green. You know, it's funny, you look at all the scores out there, and you sit in every staff meeting, and whether it was a 70-63 game, West Virginia at Baylor, or Georgia 51-45, and there's an offensive staff and a defensive staff, and you lose and win together. But you know, the one side saying, well, we scored a lot of points, the other side saying, God, if we could have just held them more, you know. But the fact is, that's what's going on today. They're high-scoring football games, and so we used to. There was a segment in time when it was 17-13 or 10-3, and I'm sure the offense had to appreciate the era of the times and getting 7 more points. And that's what this football game is all about right now, is getting one more touchdown than the other guy, it seems, in the ball game. And so, I think we go through it just like anybody else. And a win kind of makes it okay, and a loss makes it tougher.
So could you take us a little bit through, just kind of on the same lines of what you're talking about? How strategies are different now because of these new, we had mentioned before,
sure,
everything from the coin toss
well,
right to the
you mentioned it before practice or after practice today, and I think it's critical. I mean, teams are taking the toss. They said, okay, there's going to be some scoring going on. We better get ours in first. And when we play, and I've always been, and the consensus, the general consensus had been defer, because generally the first, everybody's a little bit shaky. Don't get a first down, fill each other out, punt exchange, we get field position, you know. It's generally just defer, let things kind of settle down. But now I think with the explosiveness of offenses, and you wonder how many at-bats an offense is going to get, Miami won the toss and chose to receive, and got ahead and really got up 14. We're chasing points because of that. I don't think you're going to see as many people. I've already sat with my staff and said, let's reconsider what we're talking about here. Maybe we need to go ahead and get our fanny on the ball first. You know, 12 or 14 at-bats in a game, and we need to make sure we get one more than the other team. And I think it is affecting teams, because I don't think I've seen some mighty fine defenses out there in the country having to explain 45 points and stuff like that, and they're probably wanting their offense on the ball first, not the defense.
Even go to the, excuse me if I can, even go to the end game, and, you know, what you did, you know, hey, this was
let them score at the end.
But yeah, you're seeing that around. That's not unusual.
Well, but because of right now, because you feel like you could score the other team, or you can't keep the other teams from scoring. It was unusual. I did not. I mean, I wasted 25 seconds of clock management, not knowing what to do. I mean, are the fans going to, even to the point, does this look unsportsmanlike, or will it look something? You know, you remember. In Florida, they remember the Florida flop, I know, way back with John Reeves played and all that, but they laid down for Miami. But I really wasted 20. But I think those are things we have to consider. Those are part of it now. The scoring is just making it bigger.
I mean, Belichick did it in the playoff game.
He did well. The pros, I think, are so conscious those last. I've seen it in the pros a couple of times because the pros are so good at 1 minute drive. Which I tell even our coach, you know, we're going to have to go out and practice it changes the way we practice. 1 minute offense has to be practiced much more. It's not the same as no huddle pass. Well, no, one we call 1 minute now, but the fact that just because you're in no huddle and just because you run plays fast, don't mean you're going to run those plays in 1 minute. Our quarterback threw 2 balls underneath 10 yards. Well, that's okay in 1 minute. In your regular offense, you're going fast, you're jumping, but in a 1 minute deal, that clock kept running. And you can't throw the ball 8 yards downfield or 6 yards downfield. So we've got to really go back and say, well, there is a distinction between fast-paced offense during a 1 minute, no timeout situation and in your normally we go 12 seconds of play, but that's still something very different that we're having to get into. So it's all those things are important. I just want to win a game. You know, I want to get back to defense, and I want our defense and build that defense.
Why are we seeing so much offense in college football?
You guys are all you're in your analyst mode right now, and I got away from that 3 years ago. You know, I don't know why, but I know there's almost was a consensus the last few years that with the change in tempo that's being offensively, we did no huddle back when I was coaching the last time around. You know, we did no huddle and a few signals and things like that, but really it's so sophisticated now. It's the communication of plays and the tempo in which you can run plays is becoming so sophisticated that defenses are just are one step behind, and that's the communication. It's not just the running of the offense, but the communication of the offense and how fast it's done, and how much changes and adjustments can be made. And so I think it's like anything else that right now the offenses seem to be a little bit ahead of the defenses overall, and until something big comes along. And if you remember the Bear defense in the 80s, or the bump and run that the pros do, something's going to come along, or something. The defensive coaches, somebody's going to get something, because everybody on offense is copying everybody on football. We're a little bit different, but we're all kind of doing it the same, and we're catching, and it's changed the game a little bit. The game is about pass first, run second, and spread it around.
At what point does that devalue the product, though?
Gosh, shoot! I mean, yeah, George, I don't know if you could. More exciting can't be less. I think there's purists that would like to see the game played. And I'll say, and now that you've got my analyst hat working, if I was at LSU or Alabama or Southern Cal, I'd still play great defense, control football, and power people, physically maul them, because I would have better players at guard, tackle, end, linebacker, quarterback. I would be able to. I think you have to be in a position where you can physically manhandle people at all the positions, whether it be Ohio State or wherever. Then I think if you're one of the national championships, you probably are more comfortable staying that school. But I don't think you did depreciate the product by making it more exciting. If that game had been 7-3, there'd been some bored fans out there, mostly just as disappointed if we were on the bot end. But with the scoring that was involved on both sides of the ball, everybody was just about to have. They were all over the place. The fans were Saturday. So heck, you put the signs up, said Bowden ball. I wish you'd have said Bowden defensive ball, you know.
Back to you and your program, but do I recall, did you visit Holgerson at some point? Or?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I was getting back into the coaching, it was Leach to start with, because Dana played for Holgerson, for Mummy and Leach back at Iowa Wesleyan. And then when I was at Auburn, Leach and those guys would come up and study our stuff. And Danny was just like a graduate assistant. But when I was getting back into coaching, I figured I'd take over a terrible, you get back in, you get some terrible program, you got to throw it 100 times a game. So I spent a lot of time in Texas Tech. And then I stayed in broadcasting one more year, and when I finally got back into coaching, Leach was out, and Holgerson was now at Oklahoma State. And so I went out there and tried to see what he was doing, and spent some time with him there and at West Virginia. So that's kind of where I got back and said that's kind of what I want to. I want to play ball the next 10 years of my life, you know, the last 10 years of my life, coaching life. I want to play it like that.
Back to injuries. What's the injury situation this week?
I think we're fine. We came out of the game pretty good. You know, Bowden Presley got banged up, but he practiced today full on all our goes. You know, so I think he'll be fine. So I don't believe there'll be. Justin March is trying to get a little bit of work, but I'd say he's definitely day to day. And as you know, of course, Drazio's out.
Right.
Yes, out.
Of course, you know, we all know Coach Amato is a very good coach, and he's had great defenses, and, I mean, how are they looking at this right now, or where do they go from here as far as?
You know what, his comment this morning was the run wasn't built in a day, and we're not going to waver in how we believe we've got to accomplish things, you know. Whether we are doing it as well as we hoped, or playing as well as we did, or expecting our guys to do too much and need to go back and be a little more base. He's making small adjustments, but I think he and his staff are clearly not going to waffle in their belief that they're going to build a strong defense. And again, it didn't go like they wanted. And a lot of times, I mean, I was disappointed that we didn't get lined up early enough. And you can't play proper leverage and proper positioning if you don't get lined up, and maybe cut back. But I have a lot of faith in Chuck, and I know he didn't sleep. I mean, I don't sleep, and I know he didn't. But you've got 3 guys on that staff that are over 50 that have coached a lot of football. Coach Amata, Todd Stroud, who coached for Chuck Amata many years, and then Mike Woodford, who's been as many big BCS level secondary coaches, and then a guy who has as much NFL experience has brought that into him. So it's a combination of guys that really are working they're working overdrive for these young, because they feel for the young boys, young men they want those guys to see more success, and I imagine, and so I think that'll be a learning experience they'll see as something they can improve on. And I'll be a little anxious to, you know, I sit in my offensive meetings all day and I work on offense and tinker, and so I know they're in their little closed door sessions getting burning the midnight oil.
What were your expectations from J.D. Griggs going into the season?
Really didn't have a lot of high expectations nor low. I just didn't have He had a so-so year last year because he's with the team wasn't having a lot of success. He was a first-year junior college guy, and they were down so early in quite a few games, and it's hard to get a real judge of how well a guy can play. He missed all of our spring and off season with injury, and I'll tell you, Coach Stroud, I have write-ups on every player after every game, and they are beaming about JD and his effort and the way he's played, you know. And a lot of times that can't change the outcome of a game when they're throwing it so much, but the pressures he's been putting on the quarterback and the amount of way he's played. Coach Stroud, I know in Coach Stroud's notes to me, he said he's turning into a draftable player, and that's quite a statement, because Coach Stroud had 3 or 4 first-rounders at NC State on the defensive line when he was with Coach Amata there, and but that just showed. But that's a lot of. So he's playing very well, and he's utilizing that body at 6'5", 260, 265, and so he's been a real bright. The defensive line has been a real bright spot, I think, as far as their effort. For you're talking about a makeshift group. Capone moved inside. Grice, the fullback, moved over to the other inside position, and Presley's about 225, and JD's only in his 2nd year at a major, 4-year school. They've really have played very well.
Now, Bowling Green obviously been up and down throughout the year, kind of not consistent, but I know you can't look at statistics really, but they're number 1 right now.
Defensively, they've been pretty consistent. You know, their numbers don't always look good when you play at Virginia Tech or who was the other team they played? How's that? Florida. But the numbers did look good there. But even Virginia Tech, who scored some points, it was slow moving on them. And they did very well against Florida. Defensively, they have been very consistently good and solid. They're clearly. I can't say they're best in the country. I haven't seen everybody on video in the country, but clearly the best we played. I think compared to us in Miami, they're another level of defense for our conference.
Now, you just go out and run your offense, or you put in a couple of wrinkles?
Always a wrinkle. Always look at them and try to have a wrinkle or two that we emphasize that might grab a drive or two. You know, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You say, can I steal a touchdown here or steal a touchdown there by adding a wrinkle that they have shown a vulnerability to. But really, in what we're doing, I think is continue to go out there and do what we do. You know, now sometimes it's 3 wideouts and before wideouts and or even empty and 5 wideouts, and Saturday a good bit of the time it was in 2 backs, 3 wideouts, and run that football and play action. So there is some difference we can do in those things. But this is one of those where you're not going to trick them. You're not. I don't think you're just going to take this team. This is going to be a great challenge for our offense, in that these guys are going to play very well and take the game very seriously. You know, you can say Tennessee, we got some yards and stuff, and you can also say they could have overlooked us. You know, you could say that, but this is a big game for us in Bowling Green, and this will be still the best defenses in the conference.
We haven't seen them since they haven't played. I mean, I don't even know. Did they?
I haven't watched their offense. I haven't watched their offense at all yet. But I've spent 2 days. But I'll try to grab a reel of their offense. But I really Chuck Amott, if y'all want to grab him on the way out and get a few of their offense and what concerns you, I probably ought to do that, since I'm not going to spend enough time looking at the other side of the ball. I know their number 91 is a football player now on their defensive line. He is a ball player, and they get after you pretty good. But offensively, their quarterback's consistent. They're consistent, and you should talk to Chuck, because he'll be all over that.
Is there any younger kids defensively that may not have been playing, like, I can't think of his name, Turner?
Dylan Evans started. I mean, that kind of shows you where we are, because Dylan Evans did a nice job for a guy that shouldn't be starting in college. He was a tailback at Eastern Pennsylvania that was a wrestling champion that Chuck knew his family, knew his background, knew this kid was going to be a player mentally as well as physically. But he's probably 195 pound playing linebacker in college, you know, and it's and Horner got 36 snaps. When Presley got hurt, he didn't go back in, and Horner's a 295 pound defensive end with his hand on the ground and played real well. And that's what we're playing with a lot out there, is those two guys, and they'll have to play some more. You know, I don't know how much March is going to be able to go, but that's Dylan Evans, number 54. You just see he's just a young pup out there playing a lot.
Coach, take a look at all these.
Good joke.
I'm just saying, take a look at all these young kids who are playing the true freshmen. Between the freshman year and the sophomore year, how big a jump weight-wise, strength-wise do you normally see in that?
Well, you know, we do. We got to get. I mean, we got a lot of freshmen that are playing, and like offense, if you talk about freshmen and redshirt freshmen, from Amani to Pratt, Terrell Goodman, you know, they're all freshmen. I think Tyler Williams may be he may have played a little bit last year, so he may be a sophomore. But to Connor Hundley, to Hakeem Lawrence, you know, to Kyle Poles, a redshirt freshman, and we have some linemen that are Quasmo. Q. I've called him Q. I can't say his name. Cosmo Osborne from Hudson, and Casimos, and some of those freshmen that are playing now. Defensively, you got the same number over there with these guys that are playing, like Horner and Evans and guys like that are playing. But yeah, as soon as we get the off season, you got to really see these kids get bigger and play. But
I'm sorry.
go ahead. I mean, but we'll expect that program to that development program. You know, I've said it all along. I think we've got I do believe we've got the psychology changed around here, that we understand the attitude you have to win. The physiology takes years to go, 3 years, 4 years in your program and every year you're going to get better and better.
Now, a guy like Evans, who 195, I mean, do you expect him to play
225, 235, 226, yes, 225, 225, 235. You know, and I think, yeah, that fits right into the style of play that I think that our coaches are comfortable with. Guys playing at that stand-up linebacker, you know, outside backer position. And
where is Turner in his?
Turner played a little bit. Turner's going to be playing a little football. He played a little football. His is more of just is conforming. He comes from a just tougher background where he's been on his own a lot, and I think his is mostly be at the meeting on time, be at class on time. You know, don't be late for this, don't be late for that, and I promise you will not play unless you're on time, and not believing that, and then now he's starting to believe that all these little things have to come together. So he is really a good young man. I think he's got to get his discipline down as far as daily habits, because he plays a pretty good football player, and he needs to be playing right now.
Have you ever dealt with a player who's been out of football as long as he has been?
No, you've never seen D2 ball, buddy. In North Alabama, I'd pull him out of anywhere I could pull him. We pulled him. Yes, I have, but it's difficult. You do lose a little bit of. Heck, I know coaches that have been out 10 years that come back and after coaching it, like me. But no, there is a little bit of a loss of just the day-to-day technique. Man, just like being here 2 or 3 years and going through our disciplined routine of drill work and how we run, how to go full speed, how to pay attention, how to be disciplined in the way you line up and the way you take care of yourself. So, yeah, him being out a little while probably was one of the things. But you know, everybody's different. Every freshman comes in here different. I don't think Hakeem and Wade Edwards were quite as mentally mature as Amani Davis, who just seemed so relaxed and comfortable and never let the big college thing bother him. And Horner kind of that way. Some guys are a little bit different than others, you know, and it doesn't have any bearing on how they are when they're seniors, because they just they take a little longer to adjust to the bigger lights.
Coach, back to trying to defend 4 wide and 5 wide.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that such a challenge? What do you do? Do you try and, what came first, the chicken or the egg? You try and rush guy to give the quarterback this much less time. You drop another guy back in coverage. Why defensively is that such a challenge?
Well, it's just, you know, I just think you're talking about a harder to cover, a lot bigger space. You know, football, you know, when you're talking about a football game that's played between the tackles and you're running through holes that are several yards long, and you can gang tackle and you can teach gang tackling, and you can, and that style of play is just something I think it's just, it takes a long time to run another play and to get them in a huddle. It slows things down. I just know the field is 53 yards wide, and when you utilize the entire field to throw to, and then you go about 30 yards downfield, which is about the area that you can throw accurately in, you've got a huge area that do you rush the passer because he's going to get rid of it, or do you sit back and cover? You have to mix it up a good bit, and so and then, you know, it's just hard. It's hard to do. Offenses that are willing to go to that, it's hard to stop them, you know. And some people do it like Oregon with a lot of running mixed in with the passing. Others do it with Rodriguez at Arizona, and others with, you know, West Virginia. And boy, you just stay out there. It's hard to cover if you work at it well enough that you can execute the passing and the running and spread.
What's the one thing you need to have a chance defensively? Do you need linemen? Do you need fast linebackers? Do you need big DBs?
You know, I think a little bit all of the above. I don't know that we can line up. Right now, there are times I thought we try to line up and play man coverage tight on every single person. Mm-hmm. Well, if that's what you're going to do, if that's your mantra, you better be able to do it, you know, in a game. And so I think right now that might be, if we're going to do that, we need to probably do that part better, a little better tight man coverage. But that only combines with, you know, getting to the quarterback quicker and all those other, not letting the quarterbacks scramble, hurt you, and all those things. I don't know if I think everybody just do it. You know what? I still think the best answer is everybody just believe it a little bit more that they have to do their job a little bit better. I still believe it's every single person not giving up on the fact that they've got to do their part better, because you know, I think that's the answer the defensive coaches would give you, and I'd have to believe that, not just the one super duper bit of linebacker or super duper rush end, because that collectively we've got to be able to each do our job a little bit better. You know, you don't want to play bump and run every down. If it's a 3rd down and long, or if it's a 1st and 10, the whole part of that defense is getting them into 2nd and longs or 3rd and longs, and then you'll be able to predict a little bit more what they're doing. And so I think it's just each person being able to buy into and believing that what we've got to do cannot be altered from or deviated from, and I've got to do it perfect. If I just do my job perfectly, if I just do my job the best I can, we as a group are going to get better. And I think offensively, that's the way it's always been, the same way too.
Coach, then recruiting-wise, does that make you look more for defensive players, knowing, like, even though you know you're going to have to keep bulking up on wide receivers who are going to play that way? Does that alter the recruiting process a little bit?
You know, I think we have to have position. Anytime you're looking at recruiting, we have to recruit enough to have enough people at every position. So obviously, the most athletic people you can find, are going to be needed to play against this type of offensive styles and to play this type of offensive styles. So if we have about 15 or 16 scholarships next year available, I'm pretty sure is all we have, and it might be even lower than that. But I think first of all we're going to have to, we won't turn down a great player, a great corner, a great wide receiver, a great running back, a great linebacker, the great athletes. Then we got to have always recruit 3 linemen. You got to have a number. We're our base, so there's certain things you have to do as well. Always got to have X number of linemen, so you don't lose your numbers. X number of bigger defensive linemen, so you don't lose your numbers there. Because if you time yourself just going after athletes, you'll forget to fill those 2 areas up. But it's still for us is getting playmakers.